first of all, I apologize if there is nothing around me and you will probably hear cars going by, but I've moved and our stuff hasn't showed up yet, so I'm literally using an air mattress to prop up the laptop and a cooler to prop up the camera. So we'll see how this goes, but I have time to do these now because I owe Joe Compton at least 2 tags. So the first one is the Sunday Funday let's make a film noir tag. So this should be kind of cool. So his explanation of this is film noir is actually French for dark film or black film. So with that in mind, I want you all to build your noir with whatever you deem fit, any genre, any time period, any movie. I'm actually pretty excited about this because I'm kind of a huge film buff. Like, yes, I read and yes, I write, but I actually kind of like movies above any other storytelling form. So I had to really think about these, and I think I narrowed it down to my picks. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing is Antihero protagonist. The guy who is cool, calm, and just doesn't look like he cares, but it turns out he's a good guy deep down. My kind of go-to for that would always be Han Solo. Han Solo was very much the first person that I was ever aware of in film as a young'un of, you know, like, oh, he's kind of the bad boy, kind of, but good deep down, and he's a smart ass, and he, you know, obviously he starts as a smuggler, and so there's a whole backstory of how he's been into trouble and all that kind of stuff, but then the more you get to know him, obviously, he is actually a good guy, even though he's kind of trying to be selfish in a way, I think. So I always think of Han Solo for the anti-hero. The next one is Femme Fatale. She kicks ass, she turns you on your head, she's stronger than you, smarter than you, and you bet she's always one step ahead of you. And the actress that I kind of always go to for that would be Angelina Jolie, because there aren't a lot of women in Hollywood that I'm pretty sure could kick my ass without even trying, but she's always the one that I think of for that. And I think she just, in all of her movies where it's kind of in all of her movies where there's some kind of action element, you definitely see the kick-ass thing, and then everyone knows that she's gorgeous and she's pretty smart in most roles I can think of. The one that I think I first really thought of this would be Tomb Raider. Lara Croft definitely had the smarter factor, and she's kind of quieter but smart, and so you don't see it coming, so I think that's a little more where the femme fatale aspects would come in with that character. Next category is TAUT No-Nonsense Dialogue. This movie has a quick wit, sharp dialogue, and expresses itself in a manner so unique. I had a hard time picking for this. Friends and I in college went through the AFI's 100 Greatest Movies list. I would go with one from 1998, I think it is. I just like that list better. But there are so many good classic movies on that list, and more recent movies that are obviously good enough to be among the top 100. But the one reason that I always really like old movies, or even newer movies, as you'll see in a moment once I stop rambling, is just, I feel like the dialogue and the writing was so much better for older movies. Like, that was more of a focus. But for kind of a newer movie, I think Woody Allen's writing is always very sharp with good dialogue. I don't always like necessarily the characters in his movies, but one that kind of stands out to me for this particular dialogue focus would be Midnight in Paris. And I really like that because the different voices of the different writers I thought was done really, really well. Hemingway makes me laugh in that movie every time I watch it. Black and white. Name your favorite movie shot in black and white. Again, very hard. I'm actually pulling up the AFI top 100 list right now. Yeah, just to give you an idea, the top 10 on here are Citizen Kane, Casablanca, The Godfather, Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, The Wizard of Oz, The Graduate, On the Waterfront, Schindler's List, Singing in the Rain. So even of that, there are a lot of great black and whites. Gosh, I had one in mind, and now I'm waffling. I think for going like really early back black and white, I would pick a silent film, and so that would be City Lights. That's a Charlie Chaplin movie, and that was the first silent movie I watched where like just the characters, kind of their internal light, I guess, really came through, and I love that movie, and it's just very sweet. But then, but I also love like the Philadelphia Story, mostly just because of the cast, but again, the dialogue's really good. Like, that's not one, though, that necessarily would have to be in black and white. If it was in color, I would enjoy it just as much. Whereas, though, I think City Lights, part of the appeal of it is that it's so old and it feels old, and it's black and white and silent, obviously, and I think that all just kind of makes it feel a little more special because of the time that it came from. Next category, Shadows, a movie that made you jump, creeps you out, and maybe even makes your skin crawl. I kind of have 3 movies that I always think of that I'm not easily creeped out. I kind of, anything too horrific, and I tend to kind of laugh because it just seems silly to me. But I think anything that's kind of based in reality creeps me out the most. My first example, I guess I would say, would be the Last King of Scotland, I think it's called. I watched it once and I was like, I can never watch this again. It's just, the realness of it really just made my stomach turn, and it's just awful. And so I can never watch that again, even though my husband just got it and it's sitting on a DVD of Netflix, which is one of the few possessions that we brought down with us, was our Netflix DVD. But yeah, it's just that one, every time I think about it, is just like, oh, that was just so awful. And so that's definitely a kind of visceral reaction movie for me. The other one would be Requiem for a Dream, which I think probably turned me off of drugs more than any talk I ever got as a teenager. Just the way that just gets ear and ear, I think just kind of haunted me and stuck with me. So that would be my second movie for that. The other one, which is not based in reality, but would be Splice with Adrian Brody, and I forget the girl's name. But that's more of a sci-fi, and that's kind of more of a kind of cautionary tale. I think it's supposed to be of, like, you know, if you're abusing science, you know, you kind of have to think things through better than just, you know, we can do it, okay, great, but should we do it, I think is the idea. But the reason it really creeped me out is it just got into some really weird kind of themes, I guess. Like, there's a lot about, like, child abuse that you can read into it, and sexual abuse. As the creature evolves, it just kind of gets more and more human, and kind of just how that kind of nature versus nurture kind of goes very, very wrong. And then the ending just completely was just like, oh my god. And so I think that's one that's another movie that's stuck with me, of just like, I never want to watch it again because I had such a, like, feeling about it, I guess. So yeah, I guess for the Shadows, I'm more is more my reaction. Classic ending scene. It's time for the big reveal or big send-off or the big twist. Give us your favorite. I think the one I think of most as just, like, classic ending would be Casablanca. Like, everybody knows how that movie ends, even if you haven't seen it. I remember the first time I saw it was actually in college when we were going through the AFI list, and it was weird because I realized as we were watching, like, I know almost every line in this movie, even though I've never seen it, because it's so in our culture. But that ending, I think of, you know, them walking away. Obviously she gets on the plane, spoiler alert. Think of any classic movie, definitely that's the one that I think of most, of the, like, epitome of a good, just kind of different ending. No happy endings. The movie that ends on a down note or doesn't end totally resolved. I love when movies or stories or books, TV, whatever, doesn't completely resolve everything, because I feel like that's more realistic to life. Like, you don't always get all the answers. And I like to be able to think about a story once I've left it, of kind of like where it could go or what it meant. I think if it's not totally resolved, I think that helps you think about things more later. I think my most favorite modern one would be Inception. I went and saw that with one group of friends, and then we all kind of were like, at the ending. But I thought it worked perfectly for that movie and kind of what they were saying. And then so once I went and saw it with those group of friends, I went and saw it with another group of friends who I knew were going to hate how it ended. And so, like, the final scene, I was just watching my friends down the row, and there were expletives yelled, but I thought that was fun. So I think just to the experience of seeing it the second time in that way kind of makes it my favorite unresolved movie ending. Darkness. A movie that uses the darkness as its setting. I was going to say, like, Pitch Black, because That's definitely like something that we would have played as kids. Like it's creepy and you have to like get from one place to another. But the more I think about it, I think that my favorite use of darkness in a movie would be the movie Buried, which is with Ryan Reynolds in a box for the whole movie. So the use of light and dark in that is very dramatic because, you know, he's buried, obviously, but like he has a lighter or something, and so like there are moments when there's light and like that's the only time you really get to see him. But that was really, really good use of light and dark, just to get you to feel what he's feeling. You feel condensed because of the dark ones. So okay, that's all for this one. This was really cool. Thank you, Joe, for tagging me. He's tagged everyone I would have thought of, but if you would like to do this tag, definitely do it. Go ahead. I will put a link to Joe's in the description below. And I'll also put a link to the AFI movie list that I've been talking about, because those are definitely worth checking out. I think I've seen like 89 or something at this point, so I should probably get back to that.